What is better, a 3 Fletch or a 4 Fletch? I get asked this all the time. It's a big question, so I'm going to break it all down. 3 Fletch, you have 3 vanes and they're offset at 120 degrees. This is your most common fletching. If you ever buy pre-fletched arrows, 99% of pre-fletched arrows you buy from the store are going to have a 3 Fletch configuration. The 4 Fletch, generally speaking, has 4 vanes set at 90 degrees. There are different vane configurations, but the most common and the one that works the best is the 90-degree 4 Fletch. What is the point? Why would we even talk about a 4 Fletch? The idea behind the 4 Fletch is that you're adding 33% more stabilizing power to your arrow. So where does that number come from? On a 3 Fletch arrow, you have 3 vanes. Each one would be responsible for 33% of the arrow stabilization. You add 33% of that stabilizing power to the back of the vane. Your vanes will now have more control over your arrow, essentially, which is a good thing because you're going to see better flight. So then this begs the question, does 4 Fletch really give you better flight? The answer is yes, and I've tested this a lot. So one year I built up a dozen arrows, all identical except for the vane configuration. I did 6 of them were 4 Fletch, 6 of them were 3 Fletch. And I added a strip of electrical tape basically as an extension on the shaft of the 3 Fletch to match the weight of the 4th vane. So it was identical in weight. The only difference was the vane configuration. With field points, I noticed no difference until I got out past 60, 70 yards. And then I did notice that in general, my 4 Fletch groups were slightly tighter with field points. So was it a world of difference? Absolutely not. But in general, I did notice a difference. When I stuck fixed blade broadheads on, I definitely noticed a difference. Now, my bow is really well tuned, so it was the same kind of thing. I didn't notice too much, but out past 50, 60, I did find that my groups were just a little bit tighter with that 4 Fletch. Now, when I really noticed it is when I shoot in the wind. I live in southern Alberta, so it's pretty much always windy here. And when I'm shooting in the wind, I absolutely noticed that the 4 Fletch performs better. I actually surprised myself because when I started shooting the 4 Fletch, I would be overcorrecting and missing the way I was aiming to compensate for the wind. So that was a really, really positive thing for me. And basically once I realized that, I switched to 4 Fletch forever. That was the biggest thing for me, is just how they're less impacted by the wind. Now the question is it worth it? Because generally, if you're going to 4 Fletch, you have to fletch your own arrows. Now, I think even if you're going to do a 3 Fletch, you should be fletching your own arrows. I love shooting an animal with an arrow that I completely put together, and that's just part of why I love DIY archery. So my answer to you is yes, 4 Fletch is better than 3 Fletch. Now, when I was playing around with vane configurations a few years ago, I wanted to try everything. So I actually did a 3 Fletch configuration, and then I rotated my nock 180 degrees, so that allowed me to put 6 vanes on my arrow. So in between each of the vanes on a normal 3 Fletch, I had an extra vane. I went out and shot these, and I could not believe how well they flew. It was, the arrow flight was just perfect. With my white vanes, it actually looked like a golf ball flying through the air. You could see it so well. It was just perfect arrow flight. What I did notice is at that point, there started to be a bit of a drag factor, which makes sense. When they're fletched with a helical or an offset, there is an element of drag involved. So when you're putting 6 vanes on compared to a 3 Fletch configuration, you are literally doubling your drag. So my takeaway from that experiment was that more vanes is better, until you start to see the negative impacts of drag, which leads me to the 4 Fletch. Now, I would love to try a 5 Fletch, but I haven't found a good way to put 5 vanes on an arrow, and I don't think it would make a huge difference. But I do believe that 4 Fletch is really the best of all worlds. You don't see any more noticeable drag over a 3 Fletch. You do see a noticeable change in your arrow flight, especially at long range, especially with fixed blade broadheads. Now, another question that comes up all the time is, if I'm shooting a 4 blade broadhead, should I be shooting a 4 Fletch? If I'm shooting a 3 blade broadhead, should I be shooting a 3 Fletch? The answer is it does not matter, just like vane alignment doesn't matter at all. If your bow is properly set up and your arrow is properly tuned to your bow, the broadhead and the fletching don't have anything to do with each other. On a properly built setup, your broadhead is not going to impact arrow flight at all. So having the blades aligned to the vanes or matching the number of blades with the number of vanes does not matter at all. My recommendation is 4 Fletch for everything.